Now that the internet has thoroughly torn the trailer for the upcoming Minecraft movie to shreds, I think it's time to examine the concept of the video game adaptation as a whole. We've seen in recent years that video game adaptations can be good. We've also seen for decades now that they can be really, really bad, sometimes adapting the same game, as in the case of Super Mario. Now, every type of adaptation has potential problems. One of the main complaints about the Les Miserables film was the fact that many of the scenes of Fontaine weren't meant to be shown up close. They were written for a musical, which doesn't have a zoom feature to focus on her face as she's being made to sell herself. Movies made based off of books always have their critics because books have the advantage of relying on the reader's imagination to capture every scene. And no film director, no matter how skilled, can ever compete with the power of human imagination. But video games have a different problem. Games are inherently interactive, and trying to capture what games are about in a film is incredibly hard to do. Not impossible, for reasons I'll get into, but the thing that most people often fail to understand about a game is that the story is only part of the equation. The experience of the gameplay is critical. I bring this up because right now, the best examples of video game adaptations today have been focused more on the story than the actual game. Detective Pikachu, the Sonic movie, Super Mario Bros. None of these films capture what it's like to actually play any of these games. They just focus on telling a good story using the elements that the IP provides. And you can do that. That's a perfectly valid way to make a good movie adaptation. As long as the game itself has provided you with the story elements you need to make a film like this, it's fine. But you already know what the problem with that is. As soon as you try to adapt something that doesn't have a plot to follow, like Minecraft, this method breaks down. Now, obviously there's more to making a good movie than just adapting the story beats. In fact, the attempt to cram too much of the story of the Five Nights at Freddy's games is part of the reason why that movie was such a disaster. William Afton saying, "I always come back," means nothing if he hasn't been killed before. While the franchise has definitely veered off into the supernatural, if you wanted to make a good adaptation, you need to capture more than just killer animatronics haunted by ghost children. The first of the FNAF games didn't involve any supernatural elements at all. The animatronics weren't revealed to be haunted, nor did they have any will of their own. They were just machines doing what they were programmed to do. Part of the fear in the games comes from the fact that you could almost see this happen in real life. Because in real life, corrupt companies exist. Machines that can kill humans if they're programmed poorly also exist. A bunch of animatronics moving around at night so that their servos don't become corroded makes sense. Everything in the first game was completely mundane, to the point where it almost felt like a real security guard could get killed by one of these things. Of course, ignoring a story when a game already has one is usually a bad idea. The live-action Mario movie is a prime example of this. The reason why King Koopa is portrayed as an evil, corrupt corporate executive in a parallel dimension is because the director of the film wanted to do a movie about things like that instead of a film about, well, anything in the Mario Brothers universe. So, your movie will fail if you focus too much on the story of the game without understanding what made the game well loved by fans in the first place, and your movie will fail if you get a director who doesn't care about the source material and wants to do his own thing. But another problem comes from games that are inherently vulnerable to injecting modern politics. While some games can, to an extent, avoid these issues, like the more recent Mario movie, the original live-action movie was derailed because the director wanted to do a movie about the evils of modern corporations. And that's with a video game that isn't inherently political. We saw with the Fallout TV series that the directors couldn't help but start injecting some of their own views into the show. Even at the expense of derailing characters like Mr. House and Frederick Sinclair, they just couldn't help themselves. This is part of the reason why I do not have high hopes for a film adaptation of the BioShock franchise. In addition to the fact that they could never capture the twist behind the words, "would you kindly," in a movie, the fact that the game's take on objectivism could be easily twisted into anti-capitalist propaganda would be too tempting for Hollywood to ignore. Even a film about the events leading up to the beginning of the first BioShock game would inevitably be derailed to make room for more propaganda. And of course, there's the problem that even in the original games, Andrew Ryan was allowed to make some valid points about his political and economic views. And the fact that he wasn't wrong about everything is part of what made the first game so good. There's no way to keep that element of the game in without also keeping the valid criticisms of communism, collectivism, and any kind of coerced altruism. And you can't have that in the modern era. Oh no. So I'm sitting here looking at the Minecraft movie and thinking, yeah, this is going to probably be a disaster. But there are two ways it might actually be good. If that sheep that looks like it crawled out of the deepest bowels of the uncanny valley is anything to go by, it probably won't be. And I guarantee that the only reason this film isn't fully animated is because they need Jason Momoa in live action to get women to buy theater tickets, but there's still a chance. The first way is to explore the hidden lore of the Minecraft universe. And it has lore, it's just buried. You've probably heard of the MatPat videos on the lore in Minecraft, and you could very easily make a film about things like that. Though there is one problem. Having someone come right out and explain the lore of Minecraft and crystallize it kind of ruins the fun. Minecraft lore is a bit like you're an archaeologist putting together the clues left behind by an ancient civilization. And the fact that you can never nail down an exact answer to what happened is part of what makes the mystery so good. Where did the blazes come from? Why are they the only mobs in the Nether that don't spawn naturally? Who built the Nether forts? Was it the Piglins? Or an ancient race of Steves? Who built the End cities? You could do this potentially forever. And as soon as you create a movie that actually gives you a canonized answer, that's it. There's no more mystery. There's no more puzzle. It's been solved for you. The other, more promising way that a Minecraft movie could be made is to focus on what makes Minecraft fun in the first place. Remember how nobody thought the Lego movie was going to be any good until it actually came out? And even though the Lego franchise has never had any real storyline, they still managed to make a fun, heartfelt family film that still holds up today? No one thought they'd pull that off, but they still did it. And someone could easily do the same thing with Minecraft. In fact, someone else already did. I consider Adventure Time to be a national treasure. It is one of the greatest pieces of fiction ever created, out of any medium ever used, and it puts the vast majority of Western media made recently to shame. And in this amazing show, they had several guest episodes that were not really canon, but they explored things like new art styles and crossovers with other media. And since they're non-canon, the only spoilers in this video are for the Minecraft episode itself. In the episode Diamonds and Lemons, Finn is living it up in the Minecraft world and finds Jake at the bottom of a mine shaft. The two work really hard digging up diamonds until they've filled up a cart, and then Jake proceeds to throw the diamonds into lava. Finn calls this a senseless waste, and goes on a quest to prove to Jake that there's a better use for them. We also see Lemongrab struggling to make a lemon tree grow, and Marsley and Bubblegum try to help him, along with Ice King trying to join a griefer gang. Finn encounters a number of characters having fun in their own way, and at the end, Finn realizes that the act of digging up the diamonds along with the difficulty in finding them is part of the fun for him, and the act of destroying the diamonds is fun for Jake. I have something of a soft spot for Minecraft as a game. First, it's the game that has sold more copies than any other game in the world. Yes, more people have downloaded Tetris, but Tetris didn't sell as many copies. They often came with the gaming device people purchased. People chose to pay money for Minecraft. What this tells us is that the game people want to play the most isn't a game relying on high-quality graphics, jiggle physics, or copious amounts of graphic violence. The free market has spoken, and what people want the most isn't boobs or bloodshed, it's building. I've also mentioned before that Minecraft is incredibly useful as a teaching tool. You can use it to teach children math by asking them to calculate how many blocks they need to build the house they want to create. You can teach the value of delayed gratification, especially by examining how cheating items into the game and taking shortcuts can cause the server to crash. My cousin always had that problem and then wondered why I wouldn't play with him when the worlds he'd host were too buggy for me to even move. Minecraft is a game that most people enjoy playing with others. Single-player games get boring after a while, and it's just one of those games that's more fun with friends. But I often run into a problem where some of the people I like to play with can't play nicely with each other. They fight over who gets to construct the buildings we live in, or the city we've built. They bicker over where the garden goes, and while they're doing that, we often don't have shelter to hide from the monsters at night. I have this problem with other games as well. Valheim in particular gives us trouble, partly because it has a more Souls-like combat system. So if we can't get a shelter and beds, we get killed repeatedly and we can't move our respawn points. All because neither of our builders will put together a temporary shelter we can use to throw down some beds, since a temporary shelter uses up the wood they need to make whatever castle they're working on. And all of this takes away a good chunk of the fun of games like this. It gets to the point where either we accept that one of these people can't be in our gaming group, or we have to put off having anything resembling fun in the game until both of these construction divas are provided with enough materials to go build their separate houses. A good Minecraft movie could explore any of these topics. In particular, the fact that the game becomes unplayable for anyone but the host if they try to take shortcuts using cheat codes, or by focusing on how players should try to make the game fun for everyone. Both of these topics in particular would be perfect for a film version of Minecraft. At the end of the day, the point of a game like Minecraft isn't to slay the Ender Dragon, or to plunder the Nether, or to build a bust of Robin Williams made entirely out of nether quartz. The point is to have fun, preferably with other people. Any film adaptation needs to find a way to capture that, or it's going to fail. Speaking of fun, I have got to tell you about today's featured video game, Tactical Breach Wizards. This is a turn-based strategy game in which you are in command of a ragtag bunch of wizards in one of the most unique and interesting fantasy worlds that I've ever seen. The gameplay is enough to stand on its own as an interesting puzzle-solving game, with challenges in each mission you'll want to complete to unlock outfits for your team. But the real selling point is the story and the world building. First, the story is that you're basically trying to stop a rogue international police agent who is working with a private military contractor to take control of a natural resource they've managed to weaponize. Your team consists of an old man with prophecy powers, a witch who works as a PI, and several others you pick up along the way, each with their own unique personalities. At the same time, the fantasy world they live in is completely unique and original, managing to mix modern legal problems like police shenanigans and the politics that would naturally arise from living in a world where people spontaneously develop magical powers in a moment of need. And your magic is no match for the guns that the PMC you're up against carries, so you've got to be smart about how you line them up to blast them out of a window. Especially Steve Clark. He's one of those villains who's hilarious because he's literally the worst. So yeah, check this one out on Steam. That's all I have for today. Thank you all, and goodbye.